Well, thank you to everyone tuning into another newly listed on the CSE clip. I'm Anil Mall. I represent the Canadian Securities Exchange, and today I am on the call with John Kueber. John is the President CEO of Nevis Brands. Of course, they've recently listed. John, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I hope you're well.
I'm well, Anil. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I want to start off, John, by actually talking a little bit about the cannabis beverage industry as a whole. We're 6 months into 2023. What is happening in this space, and what are some of the trends you're seeing?
Yeah, that's a great question because so much has happened with cannabis beverages over the last few years. So overall, we have the U.S. cannabis market, all products, all flower, everything at around $15 billion. And the cannabis beverage, the THC cannabis beverage market is around 3% of that. And that's grown fairly dramatically over the last couple of years. We used to be edging always around 1%. So our market really has tripled in size in the last 2 years. So that's been fantastic to see. We actually see that continuing to edge up to maybe 5-6% over the next few years. And the trends driving that there's several. One is a push for health. Some people don't want to consume by smoking flower. And that attribute was really sort of the founding principle behind beverages and edibles, that not everyone wants to smoke flower to enjoy the effects. But recently, we've seen a different dynamic where cannabis beverages can be portable, they can be brought anywhere, they can be consumed in a social environment that people are maybe more used to, but it's also presenting value. Cannabis beverages show a great value to the cannabis consumer, where they might be able to, if they're budget conscious, maybe go out and make a few purchases a month. In the case of a cannabis beverage, you can buy 100 milligrams in the case of one of our beverages for about $15. Okay. And if you're dosing that throughout a week or 2 weeks, presents a tremendous value to the consumer. And we've been able to benefit from that.
Now, we've talked about some of the trends that we're seeing. What are some of the hurdles that you and your team see right now that, that you're still working on overcoming?
Well, I think the biggest one is shelf space. When you have a cannabis retailer that does have a fair number of products to choose from, they have to make some hard choices over what they are going to carry. And when you have a typical retail setup underneath a glass counter and so forth, sometimes those aren't set up for beverages. Now, these are some hard yards that we had to fight a couple of years ago when we were first introducing beverages. It's a little friendlier now. Most retailers do have a fridge or some place to display beverages, but that's been something that's always going to be both a challenge and also a benefit, because we feel like we've been dealing with that challenge for a while. We know how to overcome it. But shelf space with the retailer, I think is the first. The second, I think, is just consistency and safety. We've delivered a product, literally sold millions of units of our beverage without a single issue. But I think in the case of the consumer, they want to know that in the case of an edible or a beverage, that they're going to get consistent effects. Again, we feel like that's been a benefit for us because we built some trust by selling so many products. But in the case of the consumer who maybe hasn't had exposure to our brand, they really have to trust the advice of their bud tender to know that they're going to get something that meets their needs.
I was actually just going to jump into that because a lot of this has to do with educating the bud tender who can then educate the consumer. And how is your team kind of going about that to make sure that the right information is then being relayed over to the consumer?
Well, Neil, I don't want to give up all of our trade secrets here, okay, but I will say that education is really our number one way of marketing our product. There's a lot of different investments you can make when marketing a cannabis product, but in the case of a beverage, talking to bud tenders, explaining our product to them, giving them a non-infused sample and encouraging them to try an infused sample, it's really key to us continuing our market share. We've done some other creative things around videos and training platforms, engaging the bud tenders to learn more. And I just might add, it's people didn't expect bud tenders to be a high turnover industry. But the fact is, bud tenders do change often. So it's a constant effort for us to do outreach and educate them about our brands.
John, I think you've given myself and our audience a great insight without giving away any trade secrets. So let's jump into it now. Our audience watching obviously has a little insight and now knows what this company's about. But why don't you give us a little bit of a breakdown, introduction to Nevis Brands? What do you guys do in this space?
Thanks, Anil. So Nevis innovates and produces and owns some of the leading cannabis beverage brands in the United States. We're led by our flagship brand, Major, which you can see more information at drinkmajor.com. Major is a 100 milligram beverage that's produced currently in 5 different flavors that the market really seems to appreciate and love. They're unique flavors around blue raspberry, pink lemonade, orange mango, sacred grape. These are flavors that we've really found that through trial and error that are beloved. So it's one thing to have flavor with a high dose beverage that can be challenging to do. The other is to deliver the effects in a consistent amount of time. So our consumers receive the effects of cannabis in less than 20 minutes. That's due to the emulsion technology that's within our beverages. And again, we're really proud of the consistency of the way we've been able to deliver millions of these products across 5 different states in a safe and consistent way. So our business model is really the interesting part about our business. I think there's been a lot of capital investment by the cannabis industry, and certainly prior to us acquiring this business, there was a lot of work put into developing these brands and making sure they were going to be successful. There are also a handful of brands that were innovated on by the prior owner that were successful. Major is this runaway hit of a product that we've acquired. And our model is that we license Major to other successful cannabis producers and distributors in other states. So our value proposition is essentially we have a trusted, proven success story. And when we approach our partners who need to be successful in their own right, in their markets where they're operating, and offer to them to expand their product line to include cannabis beverages, and we share some of our know-how and our IP, produce the beverages in partnership with them in their states, they're able to generate new revenues, increase their shelf space within retailers, and in exchange, we receive a royalty on the sale of those products at the wholesale level. So we have a very low CapEx model, very IP-centric, innovation-centric model, and we feel that we can scale very quickly beyond the 5 states where we're currently operating, potentially into all 30 states that are either medical or recreational legal. So we're excited about that growth opportunity.
John, I think you've touched on a few of these points on what I'm about to ask next, but, cannabis beverages is a very small segment of the cannabis industry, but there's a lot of competition. Are there any other ways you and your team stand out from some of your peers that are in the space?
Well, there is competition. I'd say that the heaviest competition is within CBD beverages. There's a lot of different brands to choose from, and the points of differentiation can be a little more challenging in the CBD space. In the case of the high-dose THC beverage space, certainly we do have competition, but there's attributes about our product that the consumer seems to prefer over and over. And I would say the number one is being able to combine unique tastes with a high dose and still have it taste good, not be bitter, not have some sort of weedy aftertaste that sometimes is delivered. The second is trusted consistency. That doesn't come overnight. We have the tailwind at our back of having that proven brand, et cetera. So we're really coming into this with some advantages that we're building upon. Competition will continue to come, but again, when you have those 2 or 3 attributes that I've talked about, and the consumers build trust, and in turn the retailers develop trust, and our partners develop trust, it's an advantage that we have in the market.
Well said, John. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your background. How did you get into the space?
So I've been in the cannabis industry for about 4 years. I was the chief revenue officer at Source Technology, which provided emulsion ingredient and it continues to provide emulsion ingredient to a lot of CBD and some THC beverages. And it's a key component of our products as well. For me, it gave me great exposure to a lot of different innovators in the cannabis industry to learn what works and sometimes what doesn't work. As I'm sure other people have talked about, the cannabis community business community is fairly tight, fairly close knit, and we do tend to share a lot of the hard yards and learnings that happen in the industry. So prior to Source, I was involved in 3 different technology startups, all of which were acquired. That was a lot of fun in my 20s and 30s, and gave me a great baseline for innovation and high growth.
John, a lot of this also has to do with teamwork. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about some of your key team members that you've kind of brought to the table to help this company and your product succeed?
So the business is run by myself and our VP of operation, Tim Hopkins. Again, both of us were involved in the operation of Major and our other brands prior to Nevis coming into existence and acquiring these brands. So between the two of us, we've seen quite a bit in terms of getting partners going, competition, and executing in the marketplace. I'm especially proud of our board. On our board of directors is John Bell. He's our chairman. John was also chairman of Canopy Growth during the point of its meteoric rise. And John, prior to Canopy, also brings a wealth of experience in a number of different businesses. So proud to have John as chairman of our board. Also, Vahan Amajian. Vahan is head of capital markets for High Tide, very well connected, and also a lot of experience in both U.S. and Canadian cannabis. So Vahan brings a wealth of strategic experience. So between the 4 and 5 of us, I'm remiss by not mentioning Hardy Forsley, our CFO. There's probably over 50 years of combined cannabis experience within our company. And when you also tack on the experience of our partners, which are not employees, but we truly consider our partners part of our team members, we're all invested in the success of Major and our other brands. There's a lot of brain power and a lot of experience in the cannabis industry that goes into our venture.
Thank you for that insight. Now, John, we're going into the summer months here. What are some of the milestones our viewers can look out for from you and your team in the coming months?
Well, we see a lot of opportunity in the short term, really just executing in the 5 markets where we're already operating. That's Washington, Oregon, Ohio, Arizona, and Colorado. Those markets still have a fair amount of room to grow when you look at where we are right now and the number of retailers where we could be. But, excuse me, in the midterm, we have a portfolio of brands that doesn't just include Major and those 5 flavors. We have about another 5 brands, one of which is called Atomic Apple, the other which is called Vertus, that we've really just started nibbling on in a few different markets, and we've seen some tremendous success. So the opportunity for us, without even going into any other states, is to introduce these products from one state to the other 4, and that in turn helps our partners generate new revenues and us generate new royalties. So adding new products that we've already developed into states where we're already active, that's another milestone that we're looking for in the next few months. And of course, the big opportunity for us, as I touched on before, is to expand our geographic footprint. So over the next 12 months, again, without making too much of a forward-looking statement, we would like to expand beyond 5 states to 10 and possibly even more states where we introduce Major and other products. So that's the really exciting growth milestone that we want to be able to hit.
So that there's a lot of work that still needs to go into it. Obviously, this industry evolves from day to day, month to month. So we wish you and your team nothing but success as you move along this path. But more importantly, I would encourage any of our viewers to go to your website, read up on your background, educate themselves on your products and where they're available. So where can our viewers go to not only sign up for your upcoming press releases, but then read up on your team and maybe even reach out to you and your team should they have more questions?
Yeah, we really do make an effort to get in touch with all investors, and we do have a mailing list that keeps everyone in touch. So please go to nevisbrands.com. That's Nevis brands.com. We also have several different product websites, Drink Major, Happy Apple, where you can learn more about our specific products. Nevis Brands is more about our company overall and investor materials. Also LinkedIn and Twitter, we're fairly active there.
Perfect. John, like I said, welcome to the Canadian Securities Exchange. We, myself and our team, wish you and your team nothing but success as you move forward. To everybody watching, you've been listening to John Kueber. John is the president, CEO of Nevis Brands, of course, listed on the CSE. John, I look forward to hosting you on in the next few months where we can talk a little bit more about the growth and maybe some new products that you and your team might have, brands that you and your team would have added.
Anil, we're so happy to be listed on the CSE, and I really appreciate this time. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. You have a great day, John. Thank you very much.